Yo, what are you doing right now?
The big V. Look, man.
All right, man. Let's just jump right into this shit.
I made my wife wake up and drive me there anyway.
You...
It's a major.
Pasar con eso? Pasar con español?
¿Qué pasó, papá? ¿Cómo estás? Any questions?
Now, when you bought that sweater, right? You just go, fuck it. I'm going full Mr. Rogers. You've tuned into the Man Chatter podcast.
And we're live.
All right. What's going on, people? We back at it again. Today we have a very, 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 very special podcast because of a very, very, very special guest. It's my mom, motherfuckers. Sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to cuss right away. I needed to get that out of the way now. My mom's on the podcast. She's been on before. We're going to get into a little bit of everything. But first and foremost, let's welcome my co-host, John Messi Vallejo. What's going on, brother?
How's it going, man? How's your weekend been?
A little crazy, man. Stressful. Trying to stay away from people and try not to yell at older Mexican ladies about hugging while we're trying to do social distancing. But besides that, we're good, bro. We're good.
Okay, yeah, man. Yesterday was the first time I left the house in like 4 days, I think. I just go out and buy supplies for like 4 or 5 days at a time. But anyway, enough of that. Yeah. Today is a special day because this is the first time I've seen your mom, even though it's not in person, in 12 years almost.
12.
Yeah.
12 years. The day of your wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, the day of my wedding.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, Mama.
Thank you for having me.
Go ahead.
Also, I did want to say something. I know you love your son. I know your son's a big LeBron James fan, but does he have to do everything he does? I mean, those are some bad hair plugs. You got to talk to your son. You got to do something about that.
Yeah, you know better than that. He doesn't listen.
No,
you were part of my house for many years.
Yeah, I thought I was your favorite son for a long time.
You were my favorite son for a long time, actually. So for whoever doesn't know this, I know John since high school, right? It was high school or middle school?
Maybe middle school, yeah, like 8th grade for me.
Yeah, started middle school. So long time, long history. You were always in the house.
Yeah, 20.
We lived kind of
25 years.
The swimming pool was between your apartment and our apartment, so it was
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
a long time. Good memories.
So hi, Mom. How are you doing? How's your COVID coronavirus break been? I mean, I know, and we can talk about everything you want to talk about. So I know it's been a little bit more challenging for you. So tell us about it, Mama.
Well, actually, I've been working. I go to work every day. I normally take the train to work, which I did last week or the week before, actually. And it was almost empty. So Peter lost his job because all this crazy stuff. And I decided just to start taking the car because it's empty. I mean, when you get out of the train, I have to walk to my job, and that's downtown Orlando. So it's scary. The only thing that you see is homeless people. So it's very empty. The majority of the people, I don't know how the train is operating, honestly. I think that it's 95% empty without exaggeration. So, but we're good. We're good here. I mean, Desiree and Peter and I'm always been a person to stay home anyhow. So this doesn't affect me. It bothers me that I can go to Ross or my regular dollar store and buy plants and stuff like that. But I'm good. I'm just see what's going to happen next. That's all. And my job, because I work at the university, most likely I'm going to lose my job at the end of this month or maybe middle of April. Because they're going remote, but my job has nothing to do with computers. So that's that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I've been in this position before. So see what happens. Yeah, but it's not only me, it's a lot of people in this situation. So, we keep the faith and move on because of what you do. You can't just sit down and cry and none of that. So that's what you do. Something is going to give. Always. It's always that way. So that's my lesson of the day.
John,
Go ahead.
Things are going to give and you got to push. John, what was it that you sent me the other day? I think you sent me an email of like things to do. What was it? The like new things to learn or new jobs,
Yeah,
right?
so
Was it?
I have Coursera and EDX and all these platforms where you can learn online. They actually have partnerships with universities, and you can take classes online, earn a micromasters, things like that. And it's just
Yeah,
kind of yeah, it's a coincidence, though, I guess, right? That something like this is happening, and they send me a marketing email, and all those classes,
Yeah,
all those skills they were promoting in that marketing email were things that you could do remotely. But learning how to code and things, which is not new, but I hadn't received an email from them in a while, and then all of a sudden, a few days ago, I get something about, um, learn to code, learn to be a web developer, learn to do this, all these things that if you
you can
were
do from
to
home.
have those skills, you could do them from anywhere. You can do them from home. You can do them from the beach while you're sipping a mai tai or whatever your drink of choice is. But yeah, it was.
Hmm.
I looked at it, and I'm a skeptic. I look at things like that, and I'm like, you know what? That's pretty good timing on your part. You know,
Yeah,
not wasting an
high level way to
opportunity,
take advantage.
not wasting an opportunity. But
yeah, I agree because I think that that's what is going to happen in the future. It makes
absolutely,
sense.
yeah.
That makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So,
that is kind of crazy.
well, it saves corporations a lot of money. When you have employees working from home, and especially now that this is happening, do you think that they're not assessing all the situation and how much, the overhead is and how much money they were spending and where they can go? I don't think that 100% is going to happen, but I think that it's going to
Right.
be a way of life in many ways, which is good and bad because people have to socialize, people have to interact with each
Yes.
other. And we
Yes.
already have a
Yes.
generation of cell phone and looking down, and nobody talks to anybody, and including actually adults that are used to the same thing. So
Yes.
the more we disconnect with each other, the easier it is for other people or whatever it is to take over. That's my theory. That's what I think, and
You know,
that's the scary part.
I agree. I've noticed it in my. I mean, you're right. The adults do it too, but I've noticed it in my kids. My nieces will usually spend the summer with us, or we'll go visit during the holidays. And so my oldest son, who's 20, his my nieces are, one of them is 20, the other one's 15, 16, and Javi, my youngest son, they'll all be right next to each other, lined up on the couch, just like this.
Yeah,
That's how they interact. And sometimes two of them will be
Yeah.
playing the same game, and instead of saying something to each other, like just kind of looking over and saying something to each other, they just type the message out. I'm like, dude, you're 3 feet away from each other. Just speak.
No. That's right.
But no, I mean, look, it's that the timing for that marketing email is it's. I find it funny. I find it kind of I'm suspicious when I get stuff like that because something like this is going on. But it's true. I mean, even the show that we're doing right now, kind of learning the skill of being able to set this stuff up like this and being able to do it because you know what, I give Benjamin a hard time, but he was doing this before he said, hey, go ahead and do it because I don't have the internet. So he's this is episode what 106 now. So he learned how to do this
Yeah.
stuff already. He just he's living in 1855. His internet is way like 150 years
Terrible.
behind. So he just doesn't have
yeah,
the
Terrible.
capability.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean things like that.
Yeah.
If some worse comes to worse, like learning these skills just by developing the podcast, he's developed that skill where he can take this and say, hey, I know how to work this. And Wirecast is this software is a pretty widely used software. So I mean, who would think, right, that you start a podcast and you just want to get on and talk crap with your friends, and sometimes you bring some people on and
Yeah.
have some interesting conversations, and but through that you develop those skills that maybe only you might be able to use in the future. Who knows? Something like
yeah.
this kind
You
of
And
never
makes
it's
know.
it
and it's
apparent.
crazy. Yeah, and it's crazy that like, dude, like, so the last podcast we did that my mom watched, was with Chris and Steven.
Yeah,
That's probably one of the best times I've had in a long time. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's weird because like we're only where this got really crazy. We're probably like 10 days into it being really crazy. Because you think about it, 14 days ago, John, you were planning on actually being here right now.
yeah,
You would be here this weekend, right? And then 4 days later, everything changed, and then 10 days later, everything's different from that. So that last part was like the most social interaction, quote unquote, You know what I mean? That I've had in a while, other than talking to my wife and playing a 4-day game long of Monopoly. You know what I mean? Just to do something other than just watch TV and go mad.
Yeah,
You know, because if you watch the news enough, you're gonna go. You think the whole world's about to end, right? So
that's
it's
true.
yeah, learning this skill and having this. I look forward to the podcast because it gives me the chance to interact and and like get other people's perspective. Like you and I have similar perspectives, but there's things we differ on, and we're just having those conversations. This might be completely the new normal, right? Where I'm actually seeing like all over social media, people are having Zoom meetings with like 20, 30 people in a room to like, because that's how they're teaching classes now, or that's how they're doing it, where they're, because they can't be around each other because you're quarantined and social distancing. Where this might be the way we talk, like from FaceTime to dual video calls to podcasting to WhatsApp to Facebook. This might be the new way we socially interact, because my mom and I were talking before we started recording. This could be the complete change of the world. Like this could be a completely different world that we come out of on the other side of, where we're gonna be skeptic being around each other. Like, yo, what if he still has corona or
Hmm.
whatever the next virus that comes out of China is? You know what I mean? It's just madness. What do you think about that, Mama?
Well, but on the other hand, because there's always, two sides of the story. On the other hand, you have
Right.
family that they were really not together before because work and whatever the case was, they have to, no by choice, but they have to now be together. So people have to learn to
Yep.
communicate differently, especially with the kids. I was watching last night. They were interviewing one of the girls that was on the spring break, saying that they didn't
Mm-hmm.
care about the coronavirus and blah blah blah. Well, there was one that still
Yeah.
said that she didn't care because she was she wasn't close to anybody. It's like, okay, yeah, you're in spring break. You were drinking. We saw you on TV drinking, hugging
Mm-hmm.
your friends. And, the other one, however, she's like, I realized that was a mistake. And I'm sorry we acted that way, but you always going to have that. And I think, again, this will give parents the opportunity to really pay attention to their kids in a different way, because unfortunately we live in a world that is too fast. Everything, again, like John says, everything is computer, everything is internet, everything is just whatever they do on the freaking phone. So that's the problem. And again, it's going to be the new normal. But when you separate people, it's just a strange show. They are already there. Even if they are around people, they're already there. They're already, just like John says, everybody sitting on the couch, but nobody talking to each other.
Right.
So what
Mm-hmm.
difference does it really make not to be together when they can see each other like we are right now? Which it's a different level of dysfunction to me, a different level of dysfunction. So it's up to the parents with small kids to do something about it, and talk about how it used to be then, so they have an idea of what kind of life they can actually have, because eventually they're gonna have kids too. So it's up to
Mm-hmm.
more generation, because my youngest one, look at that Ben. I mean, he's my first one. He's an old man, and Joshua's gonna be 26. So, but
Yes.
people like you, John, that you still have just young kids, and I know that you are that type of person. Now, maybe your son or people like that is going to be the future for a generation, because I just don't see how this is going to continue functioning properly. I don't. I really don't. I'm not going to be pessimist, but that's what I see. That's my opinion.
I just, yeah, I never thought that that I'd be alive to be in a situation where the governments are telling you don't leave the house. You know, that stuff that you watch in movies, right? Like these
Yep.
dystopian societies where there's the super rich and super elite, and technology has made us advance to a specific level, and then there's the everyone else who lives like crap. But
Mm-hmm.
it's insane. I've never thought that we get to this point where government is telling us don't leave the house. That's stuff that you think only happens in movies, right? Or in other countries. And China, that only happens in China. You know, that
Or
only happens
Venezuela.
in
Yeah.
Venezuela. That only happens in places like that. Like, and here we are in the U.S. State governments kind of took the lead before the federal government acted, which is usually the case. That the smaller local governments usually kind of get
Mm-hmm.
ahead of stuff. Um, but here we are. Like I'm leaving the house every 4 or 5 days. I don't have to go back to work until April 19th. As far as because I can work, I'm fortunate that I can work from home. And I talked to my boss last week. I was like, hey, by the way, in case you didn't know already, I'm not going on vacation next week. I'm just gonna work from home. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, because we can't go. The governor is saying, stay in your house.
Yeah.
Social distancing. Only go out for the essentials: gas, food, uh, medical emergencies or things like that. And it's nuts. Ben's saying he's going out every day once, just to get things here. I think yesterday was my first time out in like 3 or 4 days, and I
Yeah.
probably won't go out again. I'll go out to the we'll go to the front yard or whatever, but to actually go out and be around other
Yeah.
people, it was eerie yesterday. The streets were pretty empty. All the restaurants
Yeah.
are closed. Even in the supermarkets, I went to 3 different places yesterday because they're limiting how much you can buy. You can only buy one of
Mm-hmm.
this item if you're talking about milk, eggs, butter, things like that. And I bought two because the milk that I buy comes in half gallons, and I was already preparing
Yeah.
myself for someone to give me to argue with me about, hey, you're taking more than one. I'm like, look, dude, you're buying the gallon milk. I'm buying the half gallon milk. It's the same amount. I'm buying two of these. It didn't come to that,
Yeah.
but it's just crazy that they had those signs all over the stores. They're limiting how much you can buy, sort of like rationing something out, which is
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it, it's it's a scary time, and we might look back in a few years and say this was an overreaction, or we might look back and say because maybe this whole thing goes away, and because of the measures we took, it goes away, and it doesn't spread like it's like, and it doesn't affect us like it's affecting other places, or maybe, like you said, this might become the new normal. It's 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 scary that this might become the new normal. And people, I
Yeah.
joked about it all the time, right? No one, we don't need to talk to each other. We don't need to be around people. We have phones, computers, tablets. Like, what do we need to be around other people for? And here we are, not being around other people. And it's not as
Yeah.
funny as I
Yeah.
thought it was when I was making the jokes.
No.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. It is
Yeah.
scary because well, again, I never thought that I was gonna see that either. I'm definitely older than you guys. Like I was telling Ben, I went through the invasion in Panama, but you
Hmm.
go through, you kind of expect that from our countries. I know it's a different situation. This is something that nobody really thought it was gonna happen. But in Panama, it was the same way. I mean, you have to be inside a house. It was different because people were shooting outside on the streets and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that's why I told Ben I'm kind of crazy with take money out of the bank, and it might not happen here, obviously. But that happened in Panama. So the little money that anybody had, we couldn't take it out. And that was 19 days that we went through that without anything. And that was kind of the day before people got paid. So, it was a scary time. It was a very scary time. So, and now that I see this, I never ever thought that I was going to go through anything like this. It's just weird because I understand the virus, but I also see overreaction in many ways. Because yes,
Mm-hmm.
this virus it spreads really fast, but it doesn't really kill 90% of people like the Spanish flu, let's say. Okay, it's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. So there's a line here that it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't click. I don't know. Everything, the timing of everything is just very weird. And that's when I come with my crazy idea of, okay, this started last year in China, um, December. Actually, November, but December is when they said that they had not a pandemic, an epidemic. Then.
Hmm.
So, okay. But in the meantime, we were dealing with what in the United States? We were dealing with the impeachment, right? Trump was going to be impeached. From December 18th to what it
Oh,
was,
this is about to get really
January
fucking
21st.
interesting.
Well, but
Okay.
it's true, man.
I'm listening.
Pay attention to the
I'm
time.
listening.
Okay, so that happened.
Okay.
Then another thing that happened was the Chinese New Year. If they had that already going on, why would you allow your country of millions and millions and millions of people to gather
That's
for
true.
the New Year celebration? And then nobody was paying attention to that because it's funny how everybody said, well, we didn't pay attention on time. Uh, China wasn't saying anything. It was the New Year's. Everybody was paying attention to the impeachment to see if Trump was going to be taken out of office. That's the time
Which we
frame.
knew wasn't going to happen.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's true. It's a time frame from December all the way to February. So when China finally decided to say something because it got out of hand, because guess what? All those people that went to the Chinese celebration New Year went back home. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have the problem that we have. So eventually, because that doctor also uh, actually, went and said what was really happening in China, they have to say something. So that's when they canceled the flight from China here. So that's the time frame. That's why and I don't defend Trump all the time, and you know that, but that was the time frame, people. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it makes no sense that China is a very smart country, and this is what I think. I think that, like in Panama, when Noriega got the power, the general that we had before was a nationalist, and I was telling Ben this before we got online, and he was taken out, and everybody knows that. Why? Because Noriega he was easier, and he was a globalist, and the United States and the whole shishka with stuff like that, and that's what happened when he wasn't, good enough. Take it out, but that's
Mm-hmm.
what I see here. That's what I see here. The whole world wants to be one thing, one nation,
One
one
government,
whatever,
right?
one government, all this
Yeah.
stuff. And Trump is a nationalist. He's not a politician. He's a nationalist. They never thought that they were going to have this amount of problem with this guy because he's standing up to China. That's what he's doing. He always has standing up to even before he was a president. So I think that all this stuff is just very, very weird. But I also think that because they went that way, it got out of hand. And now it's really out of hand. So now what? Now
So
China is everywhere. Well, China is sending, because my brother told me yesterday, he's like, well, this is exactly what he said to me. He said, well, China is helping the whole world. What is the United States doing? And I laughed. I said, we are in the position that we are because China never said what was going on time to begin with. But there you are. They're the heroes right now, helping everybody. I don't know. It's just too much coincidence to me. That's my theory. That's what I think.
so quick. So just a quick questions. So what you're saying is that China, the conspiracy theory here is like that China did this to try to overthrow and challenge Trump in a different way.
Well,
Am
it's
I
not
or
only
did I
China,
did I
Ben.
get that?
China's not going to do it alone. China is not the only one that wants to see Trump out of the presidency. He's not the only one. If you're watching the news, 90% of them, that's what they want. So sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for and how you go about it, because
Yeah, but you also
I always said, Ben, if you have a drink, you never know if that's not the only drink, and you're gonna drink socially, or you're gonna become an alcoholic. You don't know. So sometimes things get out of hand, and you can't get it back. It's out of control, and that's exactly, in my opinion, my humble opinion,
hell of a
that's
conspiracy
exactly
theory.
where we are.
John, give me 1 sec. First of all, it's a hell of a conspiracy theory because I hadn't even thought of that. That China has like this plan to because of the tariffs. That's why they planned the virus. Okay. Um, I don't even know how to react to that, John. So you wanna go ahead if you got anything to say. I'm gonna just process what my mom just said and get back to it. It was a little bit more unexpected than I thought.
Yeah, your camera has just gone pixelated. But
It always does.
yeah. No,
Don't
look,
worry about it. It'll
while your
fix.
mom was talking about that, I didn't even finish watching this movie last night. And it's sort of like a conspiracy theory documentary, what's it called? Shadow Ring. And it talks about how
Okay.
everything that's happened when you look back at all the wars that have started, right? Are and significant world events since the U.S. really became a superpower, I guess, of sorts, have really been they've been known, right? And even before we'll talk about Pearl Harbor but what happened in Pearl Harbor, where folks in Washington knew what was going to happen. They held that information from the commanders at Pearl Harbor. They didn't give them that information. Why?
Yep.
Because we needed a reason to be in war. And
Mm-hmm.
the Gulf of the Tonkin Gulf, or the Gulf of Tonkin incident, that led to us getting involved in Vietnam, which was a made up incident. It didn't happen.
That never.
Right.
Yep.
And then
Didn't happen at all. It was completely
and
made up.
then weapons of mass
Yep.
destruction and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And even before then, when you had all these robber barons and the Rockefellers, and we had Standard Oil, and back in the day, okay, your camera's back on, good. Actually, I think I prefer your camera
Yep.
pixelated so I don't see your face, but it is what it is.
Here we go. Makes
So
my
we
hair
had
look
we
better.
had the Rockefellers and Standard Oil, and that's black gold, right? And at the time, Cuba was, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, colonized by Spain, and Spain was in
Mm-hmm.
Cuba, and they had sugar, the white gold, and we needed a reason to get over there. And I don't know if you remember about the Maine and the sinking of the Maine, and it was blown up but we sent the Maine over there, and Cuba allowed the Maine to go in and be and dock and sit in port for like 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
then before you know it, the Maine gets blown up. They blame it on Spain, and then we're at war with Spain, and now it's so I'm skeptic. I mean, I wouldn't put it past China or even us, that something that we knew something was coming. And I've already been looking at the reports that even though China might have held onto this information, like your mom said, like they knew about this and they just did not release the information so that we and everyone else could react accordingly. There are reports that
Right.
I've been reading that say that we did have some information beforehand and we didn't act on them. And it just reminds me of, then I watched this movie, and I'm
9/11.
like, and then the theorist and me started kind of going. I'm like, oh, if we had this information, why are we not acting on it? And then you hear about the senators that are selling off their stock, where they're telling the public one thing, but they're acting a completely
Yeah.
different way. I was like, so you're acting as if you have
Yep.
some kind of information, but then what you tell the public is
Yep.
the complete opposite,
Insider trading. Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so you
Yep.
start to think, who's going to benefit? And we've talked about this on and off air. I don't believe in our form of government, in our form of government. It doesn't work
True.
because we have a president. I don't care who that president is. It could be Barack Obama. It could be Clinton. It
Doesn't
could be
matter.
whomever. We have congressmen who are supposed to be representing the people, but they don't, because
Nope.
politics is what? How do these guys get elected? It's multinationals. It's special interests. It's people that
Yep.
pay for their campaigns, who then put you in a seat, and then you're not representing the people. You're representing the people that just bought your campaign and paid for your ads and paid for your
Yep.
entire campaign. Like, just even the president, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work. It doesn't matter if Republican or Democrat. It's a system that I don't believe in, because I see through it, and I know you see through it. Even your mom sees through it.
Yep.
But yet we only have two parties: Republicans and Democrats. And at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter who's in the seat,
Doesn't matter.
because we're not electing them. They're These multinationals kind of decide this is who we want to get behind, and then that's who they put their money behind, and people get
Yep.
elected.
Then it's over.
And then it really is, and it sounds like a real conspiracy theorist, but when you look at it, I mean, there's always gridlock.
I mean,
Nothing really gets done. And really, when do we actually vote on legislature? I mean, unless it's at the local level, when are we actually voting on anything? It's not. We're just told by people, hey, we're passing these laws because it's going to benefit, a certain demographic in the population, but we're not actually voting on it. It just gets decided and it happens because there are lobbyists and interest groups
Yep.
that kind of work towards that way. And with this whole, uh, the whole one government that your mom was talking about, that you were talking about, it's, as much as I kind of liked the EU when I went to Europe, like how it's set up, how the ease of transportation, that is kind of scary, right? That these countries all gave up their independence and they all fall under the European Union. They all gave up their
Yep.
currencies
Yep.
so that everything is under the euro now. With the exception of some kind, I know
Yep.
Switzerland is not part of the EU, the UK with Brexit. But yeah, it would make, you would think that it's easier. And when I was traveling there, it seemed like everything was great and it was easy, but at the same time, it's so easy to be controlled by that one government. You're no
Oh, yeah.
longer the
Yep.
United States, or you're no longer Spain, or you're no longer Germany. You're just part of the EU, and you're just another province or state that's part of this larger government, and
Yeah.
it's
Or
that is
district.
scary. That is scary.
It is very scary
And
because
Yeah,
they
somebody's
take your
benefiting from this
identity.
right now. Sorry to cut you off.
100%.
Well, they take
Go ahead,
your
man.
identity because I mean we all go different places, and that's what they do. Like right now in Germany, not in the whole country, but in a lot of areas because Desiree's mom is living there now. They are actually in lockdown, complete lockdown, and they don't even go to the grocery store. They gave them a number that they have to call to request what they need, and somebody will bring it to their house.
Wow.
So
Jesus.
I mean, that is extreme stuff, and to me, that's controlling the people. Like John said before, it's controlling the people, and little by little, they're giving you entertainment, and they give you this and distract you in a lot of different things.
Right.
So people don't pay attention to
Yeah.
the underlying
Yeah.
situation that is happening, and that scares me because we're there. That's not gonna change. It's gonna get
It-
worse. It's not gonna change. Yeah,
so
that's I
what
agree
I
with John.
want,
In my
it's
opinion,
scary.
you're right. Yeah.
It's scary, right? Like I was talking to Danny, well, which now we know this that this works on a tablet. We'll have him on with his
Mm-hmm.
iPad and stuff like that. One of my closest friends as well. And yesterday he sent me a picture at like 7 o'clock in the morning. He was at Publix, and there was a line of people to get supplies. Like it looked like everything we had talked about, the dark side of like of Venezuela, right? Like people trying to make a line just to get some kind of supplies. But the thing is, those situations in Venezuela are government, you know what I mean, are government run because it's a dictatorship and it's communism, right? But here we're supposed to have a capitalistic country where supply is always supposed to meet demand, and it's kind of weird how it's been what about 3 weeks now, right? Like probably like 17 days since shit got really crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still no refill of toilet paper. So you're saying those couple, you know what I mean? Those couple people that bought up a bunch of stuff that never got replaced. I went to the store yesterday. All the bacon is gone. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense. Where like it's not so much. It's more the government with the corporations in my estimation. You know what I mean? Because I could see it coming in the next couple of weeks where they start like limiting the internet we use because we're using too much internet. Or figuring out like if you wanna use more internet, you have to pay a premium of a price, or we're gonna go to this one internet, you know what I mean, where it supplies the whole country, where you can put the whole 5G thing into it, you know what I mean, where it supplies the whole country, but it only comes from one supplier. You know what I mean? And it's strange, man, where it's absolutely people are benefiting from it. Like they had those senators where I think both it was 2 and 2, right? It was two Republicans and two Democrats.
Right. Yeah.
So or
Both.
3-1. It doesn't, it was 2-2. So it doesn't, like, to people who argue that, oh, one side is better than the other, that anecdotal evidence that they took their own information and then the insider trading to benefit from, while telling the American people, oh, guys, this isn't nothing to worry about, it's fine, we'll be fine, this is America, the strongest country in the world. While right before their stocks crashed, they sold off like tens of millions of dollars in stocks to make that profit. So there's people who are absolutely gaining every advantage from this, while we're stuck, and the only thing we get is, oh, you got Frozen 2 on Disney Plus now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Here's a little, like my mom said, here's something else to distract you from that. Here's the fact that
Right.
toilet paper is short, and that's the thing you want to focus on. There's like
well,
I was watching this podcast yesterday. There's like 15 different ways to wash your ass. You've never had a shitty day in like taking a shower. I got a manguera outside right now. If things get really, you know what I mean? If things get really crazy, I'll be fine. Like and it is like this psychological thing where you want to feel as a person, you want to feel like you're doing something because you're waiting for an invisible hurricane to strike in your area, and but you don't know when it's gonna happen. So you want
yeah,
to
but
over prepare and have all the other stuff. So you hoard up all this stuff, and it's crazy.
there is a difference, Ben, because
Yeah,
I was born in Panama, and if you don't have toilet paper,
so
I
was
mean,
I.
you're in your house, go into the bathroom, take a freaking shower. But this new generation of people that are born here that have never seen anything like that, they don't know what the hell to do. They don't. It's not a joke. It's true. They panic,
That's true.
right? Because they have everything in their hands, literally all the time. So they don't.
Yes.
The concept of, oh my gosh, wait a minute, I can't go out and do this, and I can't, because they have everything they want. And what John says actually is true, in my opinion too, because it doesn't matter who you have as a president. The major
It
and
doesn't matter. It
serious
doesn't.
issues in our country have never been resolved. Never, never.
Mm-hmm.
You have immigration, you have the social security, you have all kind of other stuff that never been resolved. They throw you a little bone here so you get distracted and a little what. I mean, that's how it works. So how this is gonna go, I don't know. I think that still this is the best country to be because you have different states and it's gonna be harder like Venezuela, Panama, places like that. It's one country. In here you have different states. So you don't know how any state is gonna react. That depends on, who's the governor and stuff like that. So they have a little bit more chances, but that's not gonna get better. It's not. It's not. People are gonna have to start really sitting back and looking at what they want to do in the future and how they're going to react, really pay attention to details and not the freaking news propaganda in all sizes that all have done is distract and misinformed everybody. So now you have
So
to,
I'll
like, I was on Facebook and I post stuff on Facebook that somebody sent me, right? And some I think that was your friend from Tampa. He's like, oh, that's fake news. It looks so serious and so real, and now that's everything is like that. So you don't know what's true, you don't know what's not true. You
Yep.
really have to be a detective to go to every single damn website to find out if what they're telling you
Yep.
is the truth. So what that does is it takes the credibility out of everything. What do you believe on? What do you really believe on? I never in my wildest dream thought that I was going to see a day that there was no church. I never, I mean, no church. People are not going to church. I mean, for Catholic people and Christian people and Jewish or whoever actually does go to church on Saturday or something, that's a big thing. It's a big thing. So I don't know. Yeah, everything is changing now, but at the beginning, that's how it was. And I think that again, that's why we can take good lessons out of this. Because when a little bit of the Bible, though, when everything was happening and the Christianity started to form, that's how they gathered. They gathered in houses. They didn't have a temple. They didn't have a church. None of that. It was just like us, three people talking, and that was the church.
And exchanging
And
ideas, right? Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
that was fine, and that wasn't complicated. But now everything is complicated. Now you get disappointed of all these pastors and priests and stuff like that because the things they do. Back then it wasn't. So maybe we need to learn a lesson of simplicity and better, being honest with each other and respect other people's belief. It's just what it is. I'm a Christian. I believe in God 100%, and I go to the Bible and I see all this stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, we're getting close, people, because it's true. It's
Yeah.
there. It's there. But we have to learn our lessons, regardless if people believe or not. Uh, it's just common sense, especially people that have kids. You don't want to live a
I,
world messed up for those people, for your kids. You don't. It's scary just to think about it. So I don't know. People have to really start opening their eyes and analyzing reality and not bullcrap that is fed every single day, and people are really buying it too. That's my opinion.
so I'll give you an example of how I got caught up with like the fake news and propaganda. Like having a conversation with Melanie, she was telling me like, "Oh, this 34-year-old guy died and he just left Disney World. He died from the coronavirus." Right? And you just kind of see that headline,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, "Holy shit, 34 now." Then you go into overdrive. Shit, I'm 36. Does that mean and you go into that whole thing, but then you read into the article and I saw Joe Rogan talking about it yesterday.
Yeah.
That 34-year-old guy had just gotten over testicular cancer, had bronchitis, and has asthma. Right, so he's not just a regular, some average healthy 34-year-old. Like, so coronavirus attacks your lungs and does the damage to your lungs. So if you already have terrible breathing, respiration issues and stuff like that, you're more liable to perish from it, to die from it. So, but if you look at that headline, 34-year-old man visits Disney World goes home and dies of coronavirus, you're like, oh shit, that's it. We're all fucked. We're all screwed. It's over. Forget about it. What's the point of anything at all? Yada yada yada. Right? And then you just look at, and I was like, why would you put the headline of that? Because then you think everybody that was at Disney World with him has coronavirus, and everybody he came in contact with, and all this other stuff. But you're not putting into the fact that like what his health history was and why he died. Like it's a lot of misinformation because, like you said, Mom, you have to do your own research to figure out what the truth is. They can't just give you the truth right up front, right? You have to look up why these people are dying, or why is it that Italy has more fatalities than China did. You don't realize that Italy has a ton of smokers, right? They all smoke. They're probably all born smoking, so they all have lung issues. They're the oldest country in the world as far as generations, right? They've lived. They're the oldest people, so older people already have more preconceived
Underlying
falters to
conditions.
being underlying
And,
conditions,
or yeah,
right?
they're
And
predisposed. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, genetically not genetically, but they're predisposed to being a victim, or being or dying from this. Then you put the fact that Italians live together their entire lives, right? Italians are Hispanics on steroids, right? Like where Hispanics stay in their house until a certain time, and maybe 30 to 40 years old, depending on where you live, and then you move out or you inherit the house that your parents passed away in. Italians are like that for generations. So you have all those people, you have great grandparents, grandparents, parents, kids, and all those people living in one house. That just festers the virus and the disease. So it's a totally different concept. You know what I mean? But when you look at Italy, then you think, oh, we're going to become Italy. No, we're not going to become Italy because we don't live in that same similar way. But it's also scary when state governments are shutting everything down without really giving you a reason why. Like it's a virus that can spread, but like there's no real deterrent because it's all an advisory. Like California, like, hey guys, please don't go outside. We're on a shutdown. People are still going outside. It's not like, you know what I mean. Then what's the next step after that? Martial law, where you're going to
Right.
enforce your advisory. Then we're becoming a totally different situation. We went from a capitalistic, amazing country to very, very quickly a dictatorship and communist. It's a very slippery slope, but with like almost, what's that? What the movie with the districts, the books, Hunger Games,
Hunger Games.
where it becomes yeah, like where people with the most don't really feel where the people with the most don't really feel the effects from it because they don't feel the effects from it now, right? Like I'm over the videos of like the super rich having to stay at home in their multi-million-dollar mansions with everything on call, and they're suffering. Get the
Yeah.
entire the fuck out of my face.
Yeah.
Sorry again, mom, for cussing. You know what I mean? Like I'm not shedding a tear because Ellen is sitting on her couch that probably costs more than all of us make in our lifetime. Like I don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's just I'm over it, bro. Like
Yeah. Look,
it's so overwhelming.
it's crazy, right? Because those clickbait headlines. I read that same article and I saw that Joe Rogan clip where
Yeah.
they just catch you with that headline, and it's easy to control your thinking, your emotions when you just see that, and a lot of people won't read past that. And even if you
Nope.
read into the article, a lot of people won't read and try to verify a source and see if the same thing is being reported. If you know what I mean. Like people would just take the headline and they'll
Yep.
run with it. They won't even do any basic
Yep.
reading into the article. So it's easy. Whoever controls the press is going to control the way that you kind of feel about it. But I mean, we're taking precautions here, right? I go out. I'm trying to stay inside because we we're not in that demographic that's going to get affected. We don't smoke. Uh, we were pretty healthy. We're not in the age range where our immune system is weaker. So and even then, and I'm concerned about my kids, especially the youngest one, because he
Mm-hmm.
had pneumonia when he was a couple months old, and he was hospitalized for a month. He and my wife were, but he hasn't really,
Mm-hmm.
and he has seasonal allergies, but he hasn't really been sick other than that. He might have been sick a couple of times, but there's nothing that says that he's immunocompromised. But as a parent, I that's how I'm heeding those precautions. I'm going to stay away from people. I'm not going to try to do any of the stuff. If we go shopping, I'm going to. If we go, this is the measures we're taking. If we're shopping, I'm wiping down all these items before I bring them into the house. Clorox wiping them down, Clorox wipes.
Yeah,
That's just
Yep.
what it is.
yeah,
And
Yep.
and so to me, I guess those are extreme measures. But that's just okay. I just want to make sure that none of this is being brought home.
Coming into the house.
But
Yep.
I mean, I think that's the extent of it. We're staying away from people. And we're taking those precautions of sanitizing these things, and then we're waiting it out. But what's you don't really when everyone's waiting it out, what's going on? You don't know what's going on out there. Like you can watch
yeah,
the news,
Yes.
you don't actually get to see it.
And all you're left is the music.
Right, all you're left is with the media and what they show you, what's going on here or there, and
Yep.
it's like I said, driving yesterday. It reminded me of you said it, George Orwell, 1984, where the government we're one step away if people don't comply from the government's instituting martial law, and
Yeah.
and that sounds alarmist and that sounds extremist, but look where we are right now, where government's already saying we strongly advise people to stay inside. And if people don't comply, I mean, that is the next step, going from strongly advising to, taking the next military action, right? Or some kind of
yeah.
action
That,
where they're
that's
going to enforce these. They're no longer advisory. They make them law, and in San Francisco they're doing it, and cops are able to write people tickets. They're not writing them tickets because people have to go out and buy food and buy this, but in San Francisco, a couple of days ago, I was watching the reports where yeah they've gotten to that point because it's a really it's like New York, right? A lot of people living close to each other.
Yep.
But we don't even know how serious it is. We know it's serious in China because in China they have a lot of smokers too, and they're densely populated. In Italy, you have
Yep.
multiple generations that are living together in the same household, and they chain smoke, and all they do is smoke, and it's a lot of older people, so they're susceptible to to getting sick and dying from this. Here, I mean, we have obesity here. We don't have. I wouldn't say we have any other. Like that's the main thing. So that would that compromise your
Yep.
immune system? Sure. Would it compromise your respiratory system? Not so much. But people
well,
are
obesity and diabetes and high blood pressure are also a problem. Like I'm,
Yep.
I'm in that
right.
category with high blood pressure. My husband is diabetic and he already had a heart attack. So it's like you don't even go to this, nowhere. I should stay home. And
Yep.
it's funny that you mentioned that when you come from the grocery store, that's not being crazy. When Peter goes to the grocery
That's
store, he doesn't touch the car, he doesn't get a basket, he holds everything. And we get home and everything is clean. I get home from work and I immediately go and take a shower.
That me
Immediately, I
too.
take all
Me
my
too.
clothes and I
yep.
take a shower. I don't touch anything. I mean, just immediately go and take a shower because I was riding the train before.
Hmm.
There was a lot of people in there. So at the
Yep.
beginning, when we were riding the train, because this craziness happened like, what, 2 weeks ago, maybe? Well, no,
Yeah.
three
Yep.
weeks ago, it was fine to ride the train. You knew that was happening, but it wasn't what it is now. Because everybody's like, oh, we have
Yes.
two cases in Florida, whatever.
Hmm.
It's only 2 cases in Florida.
Hmm.
But I think we have way more than that because a lot of
Yes.
people are not going to get tested. And then what's going to happen is, how are you going to lift this staying home situation? How is that going to work out? Because when are you going to send your kids back to school?
Yeah. School is canceled until April
You,
6th, and they're talking about
I don't
canceling it the
know.
rest of the year.
Yeah, not in
And
here
during
because
yeah.
the university also already said that, first of all, they canceled. Imagine that, of graduation for everything.
Hmm.
So whatever, they cancel. But look, school for the students, everything is going to be online. They already made that decision, even for summer. So, I mean, that's huge
Yeah.
because everybody was supposed to
Yeah.
go back in April. Desiree is a school teacher, and they have no clue what is going on yet. What are they going to do? They were told
Hmm.
to prepare lessons to do online, and that's how they're going to start doing it. But then you have parents that have to go to work.
Right.
I mean, what do you do? It's
Yep.
a cycle that is getting really, really difficult. There's a lot of underlying issues in here with this situation that it's going to come out sooner or later, and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. A lot of people are. Right. A lot of people will have. How do you go back to work? How do we move forward? Because, like you said, not every job is. You can't work from home for every job,
Yeah,
right? Especially
yeah.
when you talk about the service
Mhm.
industry and people in hotels, restaurants, things like that. You don't work from home.
Movie
You have
theaters.
to be. What's that?
movie
movie.
theaters,
Yeah. Our
everything.
entire industries, or some industries, uh, it might take them years to recover. And what happens to the people that are getting laid off because these companies can't afford to pay people PTO or whatever it is. So what happens when
Mm-hmm.
if when we come out of this? Not if I'm thinking we're coming out of this and everyone goes back to some kind of normalcy. What happens to those people? Is the company going to rehire those same people and bring them back on? Are they going to look for new people? I mean, how many
Mm-hmm.
millions of people are going to be without a job?
Yeah.
So if we get
Yeah.
past this and we're okay and we control it and eventually we find treatment, then and we go back to being out in public, then how about people that have lost jobs, people that have to go back to work, but schools are
Lost health
canceled,
insurance too.
right? Health insurance, how are those costs going to affect? Because those costs have got to be up, and if it's something that's recurrent, if it becomes endemic, like the flu, where we know it's going to come every season, is that going to affect health costs? Is it more costly to treat than the flu? And
Yep.
then, yeah, if it becomes endemic, I mean, then that means it's going to become widespread and more people are going to be suffering from this. So that's another thing that you have to worry about. It's, I don't know.
It's
I'm not an economist, a political scientist, but there are a lot of things that, like you said, we're going to have to figure out that are going to kind of open up everyone's eyes um, going forward because
Yeah.
we weren't even prepared to deal with it as it stands. The testing protocols that we had weren't sufficient. So how do we go forward with not just the healthcare, but people that are out of work? How does everyone go back to that? Because you said you've been affected, so
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I saw a quote. I read a quote, and the stock market is losing points, and they have to suspend trading all the time. And someone I don't know who it was, but it says capitalism. Capitalism benefits those in the stock market, not those in the supermarket. Meaning those people that have the
yeah,
money to trade in large quantities, that the
yeah,
elite that have, not you and me that have some stocks here and there. Yeah, it benefits them, not the everyday person that
401k.
shops in the
Yeah,
supermarket.
yeah,
Yeah. But that's true. That's
yeah.
absolutely true. I was watching I don't remember the name of documentary with Peter last night, and they were talking. That was in 2005, the
Mm-hmm.
documentary, and they were talking about a pandemic like this
Mm-hmm.
coming from
Mm-hmm.
China because it happened before. So they were uh, they actually told all the governments in the world about it. And what they were saying is that you need to have a reserve and be ready when the pandemics happen because it's not when it's not if it's going to happen. We don't know when. So you guys
Yep.
have to be ready. And what this guy was saying, there was only 15 countries in the world that actually kind of replied that they were going to start getting ready. And I don't know which one they are because right now nobody have anything.
Right.
So except China. So it's crazy. A country like this, when you depend too much of another country and you put all your eggs in one basket, that makes no sense to me. That makes no sense.
Yep.
It's everything is China. China controls everything. China is in Panama, in the Panama Canal now, trying to control stuff. I mean, that's scary. That's very, very scary. And they were trying to do more. They wanted to build. There was some kind of bringing some people from China. I don't have the details, but to be control 100% the Panama Canal. And Panama, we're like, whoa, wait a minute, you know. But that's what they want to do. That's scary, John. It is
Yeah.
scary because they're very quiet. They don't make a noise. The United States is famous for going to different countries and, war here and invading with good reason or not.
Yeah.
That's the history of this country. So China have never done that, supposedly. But they're very quiet in the way they do stuff, like a freaking snake. So uh, right now everybody's buying it, but they're taking control of everything. Everything very quietly,
They've
very,
taken,
very quietly.
they've taken control of everything though. Everything we wear is made in China. Everything we probably buy is made in China. They've done everything. You're right. They've done everything very tactically, right? Where they were never like us, where we show up with bombs and rock music and you know what I mean and guns and shit like that. They're like, oh, let's buy up all these stores. Oh, all those stores are purchased now. These other stores are a little bit cheaper. Let's buy up those stores. Oh, this multinational corporation wants to be biggest company in the world. All right, let's put all the stuff that they sell in there is made from us. with Walmart. Oh, this other store wants to blow up. Okay, let's figure out how to fund them as well with Target. Right, where everything they found a way, they have their tentacles into every aspect of the world because, and no, it's not like we stopped it because their cost is cheaper, right? Like you can't get Americans to work for the prices that China does, right? So they're gonna have stronger workforces because they've had to find a way to feed their family. We wouldn't work for what they work for.
No, you
We
see how
have a
they're set
minimum
up.
wage. Yeah, exactly. It's slavery, right? Like
Those
it's
factories
it's a
have
hundred.
just living quarters right next to the factory, and everyone just lives there. And you live to work. You wake up, go to
Yeah,
work, go back to your little whatever,
that's
however
it.
big your cell. I'm gonna call it a cell. It's not really a room, but yeah,
Yeah,
The communist country. That's what it is. The only one that are gonna be fine is the
yeah.
farmers. I'm telling you, we have to become farmers. You have 5 acres. You need to start buying stuff and learning how to do that and live on your land.
I got I got chickens. I'm
Well,
trying to figure out the rest of it.
is it even funny that we even think that way in 2020? And here we are thinking that way because this pandemic has put everybody in, I don't know, in a reality that we never thought we were going to have.
yeah. I
And
told Mel, I
people,
said we got to buy some more seeds and grow our vegetables like we used to do in South Carolina and Tennessee.
yeah,
So I said it jokingly, but not so much. I was like, you know what? We may have to go back to
It's not a bad
getting our
idea.
vegetable garden up
Yeah,
and running because this isn't looking good. It's not looking good for the home
no,
team.
no, and that's what I'm
no,
saying. I
I mean
mean,
that's
when people prepare, if people think, oh my God, that person is crazy and this and that, but those are the people that survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might happen, it might
yeah,
not, but you don't have nothing to lose if you prepare.
Yeah, all
That's
yeah.
those
all it
doomsday
is.
preppers must be sitting at their house like, I told you so. All those years you made fun
Told
of
you.
me for
Hey,
Yeah.
Marie,
stockpiling food supplies and all this stuff and having my gas mask ready. I knew it was coming.
The extreme couponers have definitely won this as well, right? Like they buy like $10,000 worth of stuff for like $7.81, and now they got like houses filled with stuff. We've
Yeah.
won.
uh, I
All
think
right,
They're
that
not
so
sharing those deals with anyone.
the only person that is having fun is Joshua. That he posted a video eating this huge steak. I don't know where in Japan. It's like, oh my
yeah,
God, son! I mean, seriously, you getting out of the
literally,
base? I mean, oh my goodness,
uh,
yeah. He's the
it's
only
crazy.
one. Do you notice that in Facebook he's the only person that posts stuff in a restaurant? So I call him as the son. That's the stuff nobody else can get out of.
No, that's
Go to
true.
a restaurant
Yeah,
and you posting this those videos. Come on now. It's
yeah.
so
Our
true.
restaurants are closed now. All the
Yeah.
restaurants are closed except for takeout.
Yeah.
So, which sucks,
Which
bro.
which which
Uh,
I think
we
that
got
people need to start thinking about that too. I mean, nobody wants to spend too much money, but it's time, support. We need to support the businesses too. So at least once a week or
yes,
something, even Burger King, McDonald's, they're all doing that. So, we have to think about supporting because yeah, the waiters are gone obviously, but the cooks still there. So, we
yeah,
have to start doing stuff like that too.
So we
Somehow.
have
yeah.
we have
Melanie,
these countries. Oh, go ahead.
no, Melanie lost her. Melanie not get laid off, but since they closed the restaurants, she's not working, right? And
Hmm.
she was gonna take some time off anyway because of because you just don't know what's going on. People are coughing. People show up to work. People
Yeah.
show up to her work that don't feel good, and they're all older, and people who don't believe it's real. So it just the dynamic of it was like, okay, let's take some time off for you. So it's crazy where those are the people that are also forgotten. Like we talked about, like John talked about it earlier. Like it's those service workers where you're trying to figure out like what are they supposed to do. Like for the most part, they really don't have insurance, right? They really barely have an income, right? Like me and her are lucky enough that I'm because like what if I was depending on her for being the breadwinner? Then what happens, right? Or lucky enough, my company's still gonna keep going and continue on for the foreseeable future, and depending on how it all shakes out. But I still have cases this week, and lucky enough, I make enough money where we're good. But a lot of people aren't in the situation I'm in. Like Alex Alejandro, one of Danny's brother, just he's a personal trainer. All gyms are closed, so he
Yeah.
didn't have insurance to begin with, and now he's not working. Now he has no income, so now he's depend. Now he's literally depending on this check that's supposed to come out, and also trying to get unemployment. But then the unemployment, think about it. Then you go down this black hole. Then the unemployment lines are gonna be packed with people
Right.
And what if one of those are sick? Then you're putting yourself at risk of getting sick from there. And then how much is unemployment going to be when everybody's going to be on it? Right? Like, where are they going to get
But
that money
you
from?
do that
Like, it's
online. Well, you do that online, the unemployment, because Peter did
okay.
it.
Well,
You don't have to go anywhere. You can do that online.
but it's just scary.
Yeah.
We're like, how are the payouts going to be when the system's going to be overloaded with people who were never in that system to begin with? Right? Like, these are people that had jobs, and by no faults of their own, by bad planning from companies that didn't set up a rainy day fund for their employees, they just thought profit, 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 profit. There's nobody benefited from that but them. Right? Like John said, like this capitalism supports the stock market, not the supermarket. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I go back to, like, it's crazy to me that they still haven't refilled the shelves with toilet paper. Like, you're telling me it's that hard to make toilet paper? It can't be that hard where they can't just
They have
crank it
it.
out. But are the
They have it. They have it
but are
early in the morning. You have to go early in the morning to get it. But I think that they have to wake people
I'm
up,
not gonna fight
and
for
you
toilet
know,
paper.
well, you have a balance in life. You can't either go capitalism 100% or communism or whatever. You need to have a balance in life. And I think that we all, as a whole, lost the perspective of how to do that. And because a middle class person in this country is not a middle class person like in our countries, people don't notice that much of a difference, because you still have the freedom to go out, you can buy stuff, and you have a credit card, whatever. So people in here really doesn't suffer that much. I'm not saying that there's no suffering. I'm not saying there's no poverty,
Right.
but I'm saying in
Right.
general, people don't see it. People don't see it. Peter laughs at
Yes.
me sometimes. He's like, "Oh my God!" I'll say, "Peter, maybe because I'm been through stuff already. Maybe that's just embedded on me." But
Yep.
I think that you guys have to wake up and smell the coffee, because
Yes.
it's happening in front of
If
your eyes. It's happening.
if they're not smelling it now, they'll never smell it, man. Like, right, like I was the same clip, because I shared it yesterday to Facebook with Joe Rogan. The guy that was talking is a former Navy SEAL, right? He's been all over the world. He's like, for right now, what you're seeing is a lot of people don't realize, like, these are completely their first world problems were always almost kind of built on glass, right? Where it,
Yeah.
it was really frayed because you rely on all these things to be provided for you, where you're really not self-sustaining, right? Like, you really don't know where anything, how to provide for yourself, anything other than going to Publix, Walmart, Target, whatever, right? Like, having somebody else do that for you. Where he goes in other countries, if you go to the market, because John's been to Spain, and mom, you and I, we like now Panama has supermarkets, but they used to have like tienditas, right? And usually call like el chino.
La bodega.
Whatever that little no bodega, whatever that little store had is what you had to deal with, right? Si ibas ahí y no tenían pimiento o algo así, like, if they didn't have those things, you just figured out a different way to do it. Here, we never had to deal with that because we always had an overindulgence of everything. So now, when you're being shown what you don't have, you should be seeing how fickle this capitalistic country that you believed was supposed to supply everything for you and cater to you is gone. It's not the same anymore, because now
Yeah.
you're at the leisure of a multinational corporation and other multinational corporations that are supplying for you. You can't. If they stop feeding you, if they run out of chicken, then what? If they run out of
That's
beef,
what I'm
then what?
moving.
If they run out,
That's what I'm moving to Panama. I'm moving to my hometown. That it doesn't matter if the world comes to an end. The streets are gonna be the
yeah,
same. You can go and fish your own fish. You can get your shrimp. You can get la gallinita
yeah,
en el patio. All that stuff, and
yeah,
I'm seriously, everything is like stop on time. And those people are, they have everything because they're farmers, so they don't need anything else that they already have. We our mentality, even me, when I go back to Panama, I've been here for 40 years, and
yeah.
it feels weird. You go back to your own country, and it feels weird. It's like, oh my God, the way people talk or think, or we're being
Mhm.
conditioned to think in a certain way and act in a certain way. And when you go to our country, that stuff that matters in here doesn't really matter. Everybody, I don't have to call my sister or my brother or whoever to tell them that I'm coming to their house. That doesn't happen in there. Everybody gathers. It's just the way it is.
Right.
If you don't have money, people don't care. Somebody invite you to this. I mean, it's not. It's just more personal. In here, everybody live in their own house anyhow. You think about it. People go out and socialize. So how many times do you have people in your house?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe a birthday, but a normal every weekend thing, we lost that. We don't have that in here. Some people maybe do, but the majority don't. So that's the way they live their life.
There's no sense of community. There's no sense of community,
No,
is what you're saying.
no, nothing, none of that, none of that. Now
Not
the
No,
even.
that's
cities
a
in every country, huh?
yeah. My uncle, who just came back, but that's one of the reasons. You know, he went back to like Colombia and stuff, or Venezuela, but he didn't like it up here, or whether it was in Florida or here, because he just said, you know, everyone. We live in the suburbs, right? I live in the suburbs, but that's how America is set up for the most part. You have these suburbs and subdivisions. And yeah, you have neighbors, but everyone wants their privacy. They keep to each other.
Yeah,
And
Hmm.
that's not what he grew up in South America. That's just not how Latin America is. Everyone is, like you
no,
said, it's more personal. You know your neighbor. I left Venezuela when I was six and a half, but I remember that we would gather. My neighbor, you know, my neighbor right next door, three doors down, the one on the right side, four doors down. We'd go out there. I Me and their kids, we were best friends. My mother and the neighbors were really good friends. Everyone knew each other. It was a community. It wasn't just, oh, we live next door to each other. It was almost like
Yep.
extended family, right? And you gather and
yeah,
you cook and you drink and you shoot the shit. But that's what it was. It was a sense of community. If my mother couldn't do something, or the neighbors were like, oh yeah, we'll watch after him till you get home.
yeah,
You know, it
yeah,
wasn't it wasn't like when I came to the States and I was a latchkey kid where don't let anyone know that you're gonna be home by yourself, right? Because we
yeah,
don't get home
Yeah.
from work
Yep.
till 6 o'clock. Just get home from school, open the door, lock it, and we'll be home in a few hours. It's the completely opposite
No.
effect, which is something that my uncle could not get used to. I mean, even though he's back, he came back like last week because the situation in or in Venezuela is not great, but yeah, it's. I think that's one of the big things. We used to do that in South Carolina and Tennessee. We would have gatherings on the weekends. Here, I haven't because I really haven't been able to establish like a really good core group of friends. Because my first 2 years here in Ohio, I wasn't really here. I was traveling home every weekend or every other week, so I didn't have time to really get to know people because I never spent time with them. I would always go back home. I was commuting. I'd spend a week in Tennessee, then I'd come back and work a week here and back and forth. But yeah, that sense of community
Right.
is something that I've talked to Mel about and trying to kind of develop those friendships to have people over because that doesn't happen. You know, I think here it revolves around football, right? There's football season or something going on and people come over on the weekends, but it's not just to have people over just to have people over
yeah,
to fellowship, to get
yeah,
together and just hang out. That you don't
yeah.
see that a lot.
No,
And
you don't. Not even sports now. You guys don't even have that. Imagine that. Some people don't realize that they're married because
Yeah,
Sunday
we
was
don't even
like,
have sports.
right?
no sports, Benji, no football, Benji, nothing,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's crazy. We'll see. That's gonna
There's no
affect
soccer, no soccer, no nothing. The whole world. It's
nothing.
madness.
Hey,
It's it's
speaking of this madness and the virus, has anyone noticed that Putin extended his presidency until 2036? Did you
No,
guys know
you
that?
see?
yeah.
His his March 11th, he passed. No one opposed him in either house or in anywhere in his Congress or whatever they're called, Parliament. So his term ends in 2024, and then the package that he passed and got approved extends him for two more 6-year terms past 2024. So he'll be president until 2036. In case you guys weren't following
Yeah.
that,
Dictator.
Putin is gonna be
No.
Yeah.
president for
No, I
life
saw that.
essentially because he's been
Yeah,
Yeah.
either the president or the what's like the whatever the next lower
Whatever the
position there. Yeah, so he's been in
yeah,
power
vice
for the last
vice.
20 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's gonna be in power for the rest of his life. I mean, I kind of with Russia, I kind of just assume it's gonna happen. Like I don't, you know what I mean? I don't like lose thought of like, okay, yeah, Russia's obviously a dictatorship. And that's what it is. It's an oligarchy, and then you just kind of move on.
so what
But
do
but
you
we're
guys
Kind
think
of
but we're
is
an
just
gonna
kind of what
oligarchy
we
happen?
here
got.
too. We're an oligarchy here too.
Yeah,
We have a
So what do
we're
you
an
president and we
think?
have
oligarchy here.
congressmen, but they're controlled by the multinationals and the people that have the real money,
Yes.
and these families from the
Yes.
U.S. You know that from from generations ago that have passed down that wealth to the current generations. I mean, we don't want to see it that way, but it's what we are, and we haven't been represented. At least my
100%.
when I became old enough to understand and follow politics, and I realized that it's like, why am I voting? My vote isn't really. I would tell people, vote, like what. And then when I became old enough to vote, I realized, what am I voting for? My vote doesn't really count unless you're talking about a local election in the, within the city or your local government, where those votes
Yep.
count. When you're talking about federal government, maybe even state, like those votes, they don't matter. Like
No,
you don't have a say in any of that. That's controlled by, for lack of a better term, the powers that be, the people that have the money, the elite. And I mean, we are an
Yep.
oligarchy, whether you want to admit it or not. I mean, it's not set up that way. We're set up as a democracy, or we're a republic, however you want to call it. But
Whatever,
that's not what
whatever,
we are.
whatever we've been branded. It's whatever we've been branded. Whatever
Yeah.
now,
branding they've done is what they're
now, this year we
Go ahead,
have
mom.
election. This year we have election in this country. That's enough for another story.
Yes.
That's gonna
Interesting.
be interesting. Very, very interesting because
I don't think it's interesting at all. I think Trump's going to win.
well, listen, if Biden is gonna be against Trump, I mean, forget about it. That's just what it is. Trump is gonna win again.
Yeah.
Right. Especially
46 to
because
4.
now,
No,
well, yeah, but you see,
not
when something like this happens, people really like September 11th. People pay attention to see how the president reacts to the situation. Okay, and right now he's for the first time I think since he was born,
nope.
he has 56% approval rating. That's huge for him. You guys know that because he never go above anything. So
Right.
He never gone above 49%
but
until this time.
besides that, how do you? I mean, there's a Biden that for me, that guy has dementia. Honestly, I don't know why he's
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
Like he does. I mean, it's just Bernie Sanders. I mean, it gets more coherent than this guy. And it's okay. To be fair, they're not being able to do anything either. Nothing, because of the coronavirus. They can't gather anywhere. Everything. The primaries are being canceled. I mean, everything is the United 2020. Like I said, 2020 has been canceled. Like literally, 2020 has been canceled.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
is going to happen? Are they going to extend the elections? I mean, what is going to happen? Because you have to go and vote. I mean, how this is going to work out? If somebody wins, it will be fair because nobody has a computer or the ability to do stuff online, or they don't know how to do it. Whatever the case may be, what is going to happen?
I can
It's
tell you that.
amazing.
Yeah, I can tell you that I knew Trump was going to win. Probably a week after he got elected in 2016. I mean, I don't know if you got. I mentioned this to Ben before, but as soon as he was elected, 3 days later, he filed his petition for 2020 campaign, which is unusually early for someone to say I'm already running for 2020. But that's what he did. I had to like look up the numbers so I didn't mess it up again because I've talked about this before. But yeah, he officially filed his re-election campaign
Yep.
January 20th, and he took office January 17th. And he's been running like that's been his platform. Bill Clinton did the same thing. He was essentially running like a re-election. His entire presidency was like a re-election campaign because he held rallies. And Trump, he holds rallies even before this whole new campaign cycle, this presidential election cycle got underway. Like his entire presidency, he's been holding rallies, keeping his
Yeah.
base engaged. It's like he's been running for president the last 4 years. And I thought whoever, whether it was him or whoever his advisors, whatever, genius move to run a re-election campaign. And then with the coronavirus going on, there's no way that it's like when we're in the middle of the Iraq and Afghanistan war. There's no way that you switch presidents from Bush. You just don't do it. You weren't going to elect anyone else. And so
No.
it was. I knew Bush was going to be and I supported that. I thought it was a better route. You weren't going to. Who was it at the time? Was it Kerry or was it Howard
Kerry.
Dean who had the
Kerry.
meltdown?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So there was an article that came out about that Howard Dean, because he was more so like the Bernie Sanders type of person where he talked
Right.
about people and taking money from, like Howard Dean would have been the harder challenge to lose to George Bush because he was more of a wild card. John Kerry
Right.
was just Republican light or conservative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was an easier decision to like, oh, why are we going to get the fake version when the real version is right there? You know what I mean? And it's the same thing that's going to happen this year. It's Joe Biden is by all accounts 98% similar to Trump, right?
Right.
Just isn't doesn't like paint himself orange. Is really the only differences between them. They both believe in the same stuff. They're gonna have the same people working for them that they're not gonna have. Sorry, mom. He does paint himself orange, though, right? Like we can agree that's not his natural skin tone,
No,
right? Like
and
nobody's natural skin looks
I don't know.
no,
I
the same.
haven't seen the
it's
guy in
not.
You know?
person, but
But remember, hey, look,
Well,
even
you see,
John Kerry, who was a Democrat, like
yeah,
yeah,
his wife is the heiress to the Heinz fortune.
yes,
You know
yeah,
that, right? So
yeah,
it's just who who's
yeah,
really making any decisions? The money behind that.
exactly.
It's again,
Yeah,
I think about it and
it's
I'm like,
always
you know what? This stuff, like, what are we doing here? Is this just a game and people are gonna pick blue versus red and we're gonna get on one team versus the other? And I've seen it. I saw it with Obama. I see it a lot more here with Trump as president, where the comments that are made on your Facebook, like you're gonna see, we're gonna take the house back, and we are gonna do this, and we're gonna do that. I'm like, we are one country. How are you like? How,
yeah.
I just don't get that
How is
mentality that people fall prey to that, and they get sucked up into this game where Democrats versus Republicans as opposed to what's best for the country overall, and it's nuts.
yep.
This, by the way, this turned into a crazy conspiracy podcast, but I'm fine with that. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
it's been
Let's
really good
let's
actually.
lighten it up a little bit. Let's lighten it up a little bit, Mom. Hell, I'm trying to convince John to retire or to at least visit Panama. Right? Let's. I think we've covered politics and coronavirus and conspiracy theories enough. Let's tell John about our beautiful home country.
Oh my
Give
God.
him some details
But
what
first
it
of
was like
no,
growing up there.
he has to go. He knows what it is growing up in a Latin country, even though he was a little child when he came here. Uh, I think that when we went to Panama, we went to Chiriquí. Oh my God.
Yep.
Uh, everything slows down, so you have time to enjoy yourself, to enjoy your family, to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy absolutely everything without really worrying about even cleaning your house because you can have a maid. That's awesome. But everything is Latin countries are different. People are more into each other, helping each other and stuff like that. And it doesn't matter if you have obviously you have money, like my cousin, you have freaking houses everywhere, but you don't have to have a big house or a big anything to have a good life in Panama. And you use the dollar, you can bring your retirement, your insurance, the whole thing, and you're good. So Ben was thinking of moving to Panama. Um,
Still thinking about it.
yeah, I don't know. I can move to my hometown. We have a house in there, so
Yeah.
I have a room. I can go in the backyard, en el patio, poner gallina y cosas. My grandma, that's how we had it. It's funny because my grandmother, she was a nurse. My grandfather was a farmer, and that's how we grew up. There was the chickens on the back, and I hated it when they kill it, like agarran el cuello and start just killing
I
the
remember
thing. It's
those
like,
days. I used to
oh
raise the
my
little
god!
chickens. I would go buy them in the market with my uncle, and either the cats would try to get them in the backyard, or one day, like after months of having this damn baby chick, I'm like, "What happened to whatever, so and so?" And then my grandmother would be out there. They'd be cutting it up, or they'd have the meat grinder. I was like, "Oh, that's what happened. I just raised it. I loved it. I fed it, and now I'm gonna have it for dinner."
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember. I was old enough, just old enough to remember those days.
Well, those
Yeah,
were the good days, though, because
yeah,
if those people didn't have a lot of stuff, but food was always on the table. You always have something to eat.
yeah.
Always have something to eat. Like in Panama, for example, I grew up eating fish and shrimp and all the stuff because, I mean, it wasn't expensive at all. Why? Because the ocean was right there. So
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
those people in our countries that live in those areas, excuse me, are not going to get affected about anything because they
No,
can still do what they're doing or they did 30 years ago. So we on the other hand, yeah, that's a different story, including me because it's just not used to it anymore. Like when I go, there's no hot water. That drives me insane. that I have to get in the shower and the water is so cold, and
Yeah.
no AC in the house. You have it on the room, so yeah, there's a different life, but it's a good life. It's a very good life. Panama really, and whoever lives in other countries, that is their country. It's really good. It's really good. I'm proud of what Panama has become,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go back. I do.
Well, I mean,
I want to
I
go to
talked to
do that
Ben.
later.
Yeah, I talked to Ben that wherever, regardless of wherever we retire, it's not going to be here in the U.S. Um, I talked to him about Spain because I have family in Spain, and our trip there to Europe this past summer was amazing. Seeing family that I hadn't seen in person in gosh 25, 26 years. Right
Wow.
around the last time I
Mhm.
saw some of my family was when probably around the time we met. I was in eighth grade, and so I
Yep.
remember I took a trip in eighth grade, seventh or eighth grade, to Venezuela. That was the last time I traveled there. I've had family visit here every few years. I have some family that has moved here, but yeah, some of them moved to Spain. That was the first time, other than like Facebook or Facebook Live or some kind of video, that I saw them in person.
Yeah.
And because we communicate through Facebook and WhatsApp and all this other stuff, we've never really lost touch. So it was really like we left. We picked up right where we left off. But it's crazy that it's family that you haven't been able to embrace them and be there physically with them for 25 years, like a quarter of a
Yeah.
century. That's nuts. And Spain was
That's
relatively cheap compared to the States too, as far as living, cost of living. Um, they also have socialized healthcare, which is nice. My cousin complains about it all the time. He's like, "Oh, and I gotta wait 2 months to have this." I'm like, "But so the thing that you have, is it keeping you from doing anything?" No, it doesn't keep me from. I just can't lift certain lifts at the gym anymore. I'm like, "Oh, okay, but then how much is it gonna cost you?" I mean, he pays taxes; it's not free, but
yeah.
I can tell you that he would have paid more for his private insurance over time, paying for that stuff, than being getting it taken care of. Now he said I can have private insurance on top of the insurance that I have now, and I could probably skip the line, and my private insurance wouldn't even be that much more. So they have that option there too. But it's the cost of living was nice. That it was just, yeah. I told him it was gonna be Spain or maybe go back to. He's been trying to convince me about Panama. I was like, all right, well, I mean, we're gonna have to make some trips there. This whole
Yeah.
coronavirus COVID-19 thing is throwing a wrench in the plans. So we'll see how
Yeah.
Yes.
travel looks like to other places outside the U.S. after this. But yeah, I
Yes.
mean that's not out of the question. I mean, at one point we were thinking about going to the Philippines because that's where my wife is from, and we can stay there. But I think where she lives is out in the province, or where we would be at is out in the province. So and there are people around, but it's away from major cities. So you're talking about
Right.
social isolation, and I mean it's not even that bad. Social isolation from the major hubs, but again, it's like Latin America. It's a lot of people there. There's a sense of community. There's people there, and you're not family, but you're like family, and
Oh yeah, you are.
it's that kind of culture.
And you can bring your insurance too, because in Panama you have the same thing. When you work, you have health insurance.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have to wait forever. The hospital is not the best thing in the world, but you have health insurance. If you
yeah,
want to get an extra private, that's up to you. But you have insurance when you work. I
yeah,
don't
and they have the
understand why this
pensionero
country.
stuff there too, right?
Yeah, and then for example, you move to Panama. You already have, let's say, retirement or insurance that goes
Hmm.
with you to Panama. So they recognize those type of insurance, so you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
No, I mean it's interesting. Panama is beautiful. Have beautiful places to go, and it's always something going on. That's for sure.
Yep.
Always. Oh my God. But you see, in
And our
Panama, they
family are.
didn't. Yeah, in Panama, they didn't cancel los carnavales, right? With the coronavirus going on already, they didn't
Hmm.
cancel
Mhm.
los carnavales, but they canceled Semana Santa and everything else. It's like, wow, because it's about money. It's about the money that they were gonna lose if they didn't do that. If
Yeah.
they did actually, if they did that. So yeah, it's insane. Now they're paying the consequences. Panama has more cases than any country in Central America, per capita, because Panama has 4 million people now. So
Yeah.
it's people don't listen. They told them, like, Italy, stay home, don't do anything. What did people do? They got on their car and they started traveling para interior. Okay, let's go to the beach. They go here. I mean, that's what they did. That's what happened. So
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of people do listen, but you always have an idiot like the spring breakers in here. It's like,
Oh, yeah, those are fun.
well, yeah, crazy. So what else, guys?
I don't know. It sounds like the
I
world's
think
coming to an end.
yeah, exactly. This podcast has been crazy. My mom came out with the heavy conspiracy theory, man. This was a good time, and it's good to do this during this time because you still have some kind of, even if it is virtual, some kind of social interaction, and you get to talk. Like John hasn't, you guys haven't talked in 12
In
years.
years.
You've known
Oh my
John for
god.
25, 26 years, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice just recapping and stuff like that. Mama, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Obviously, we'll have you again to keep everybody updated. I love you, Ma. I
Love
love
you
you.
too, guys. John, it was really nice seeing you.
It was great seeing you too.
Bye.